What's up guys, Balls, and today we've got a Pokemon game tier list. So before we get into this, quick things I gotta talk about real quick. We're finally getting Fiber installed. It's happening the 7th. I'll be able to stream. I'm very excited. I'll have another update video about that specifically as the day gets closer. But for now, just get excited for that because I'll be able to actually stream. Whether it be Pokemon games like these, which I'd like to do, or if I try to do Beyblade, it should be much better. Shouldn't have any issues on my end, hopefully, with upload speeds, which is something that I've never had in my entire life. I've always had upload speed issues. So, secondly, I got two shoutouts real quick I want to make. Kara Stevens, he's doing this before ZA comes. Well, ZA is now out, but he's got a Pokemon tier list he's going through. Separated to parts. I don't think I want to do mine into parts, although I could. I've thought about it. There's a chance that this does, but we'll see. Kind of depends on how long this takes. But anyway, talking with him a bit in the comment section on Twitter, I was able to get a little bit of I think a bit more of a grasp on my opinions on the games, and where I feel about them, and at least able to describe a little bit more about them. And other shout out, Kazura dropped the album Dead World, and it's awesome. I absolutely love it, so go check it out. I want to put a comment or a thing in the description too for that. I think I said that in the last video, but it's amazing. I love it. Great album. So, tier list, 6 tiers, technically 7, but one of them isn't really a tier, right? The top tier, S, obviously is my favorites. The ones in A are basically as close as you can get without being favorites. B is just overall stronger games out of the bunch. C and D are kind of two sides of the same coin. For some, I either have problems with the games, or there's something that's held me back from playing through them, or playing through them more often. And lastly, we have F. And we'll get to F when we get to F. Now, not played, there's technically speaking, I don't know how many games. Well, I could technically count it up, but I think it's technically 7 games I haven't played. I haven't played Gen 1 at all. I haven't played Crystal. I haven't played Let's Go, Pichu, and Eevee. Well, I haven't played fully through Crystal. I played the very beginning, but I'm going to loop it in with Gold and Silver for the sake of this tier list. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, I got halfway through and haven't finished it. It's been a long time. I guess that kind of shows you where they're going to be ranked, roughly, but I've got a good grasp on the games, I feel, from playing them. It's still Pokemon. It's just catching mechanic is the main thing that's different. It's still very modern Kanto. So, and then Red, Blue, Green, and Yellow, which are going and not played. They're the one exception when it comes to they're the main exception when it comes to playing through the games. I'm starting with Crystal. I think I'll do Gold and Silver my own time. I just don't want to go do back-to-back Gen 2 games like that. I'm trying not to go backwards in generations either, as the other thing. And I just don't want to play Gen 1. I grew up past Gen 1. There's no nostalgia for me, so I know it's older. I know it's got some questionable mechanics, and that enough has just kept me from really caring to go back. I do have Red and Blue, not Yellow. I don't think I got Yellow. I think I just got Red and Blue on the 3DS. I can play them if I want. I just have never had much of an interest in going through and doing them, so that's kind of continued. I don't have any problems with anybody who would rank them really high, even S. I mean, they are the first Pokemon games. I mean, that in itself is a massive factor, in general, right? Because, I mean, they're the first ones. Even if they've got problems, they're the first ones. They're what started everything. But as someone who has no nostalgia for them, and I don't have an interest. I'd rather just go play Leaf Green and Fire Red. If I want to go play a game that's that same style, Game Boy Color, that I'm nostalgic towards, I want to play Gold and Silver. So, Gold, Silver, Crystal. I really like the music and the aesthetics. There's something about playing through an old game like that. This is probably the oldest game that I've mainly played because I grew up on the Game Boy. So at that point, the GameCube was the main console. Everything was in 3D. And we're even well past removed, in 64. So it's been a while since 2D was the main thing. And while I love the aesthetic of those types of games, I'm a little picky with my games, which ones I like. These are the main old games that are 8-bit, got that style, that I'd go and play, and I do love that. I think the things about Gold and Silver that keep them from being really high are a mix of things, a mix of 3 things. So what I value the most in a game is the Pokemon more than anything, because what I get enjoyment out when I go through and play Pokemon games again is using different Pokemon. There's a few other things involved in this. I like the games to flow pretty well. if I have to sit and grind at the very end of the game because I'm way underleveled, I don't like that. That's not fun. That's tedious. I know some people like that. I've got a friend who will use Dragonite and overlevel Dragonite for the Elite Four because he likes Dragonite, and yeah, that's totally fine if you want to do that, but that's not me. That's not what I like doing. So for me, that's awful. It's a pain in the ass, quite frankly, to have to just sit and grind for a long time, and a lot of the early games have this. I don't think this really got fixed until Gen 5. Frankly, with Autono. Kara Stevens, I know, has a disagreement on that, and I'm very excited to see his next part in his tier list on the DS era games. But for me, it's much easier and digestible to be able to just fight Autono a little bit if I'm starting to feel underleveled. And you don't always have to. You don't have to grind if you think you're good. Some of it's team dependent. If you've got a team that's got some flaws, you might need to grind because certain Pokemon will just whoop you, right? But your team could also be really strong where you don't feel that way, or you just want the challenge. But I think there's other ways if I want a challenge than just being a bit underleveled. So I do like in the newer games, it's easy. I can turn the XP share on and off. I can use bigger teams in the really new gens and spread the levels out, but you can't do that in Gold and Silver. And I know they've got one of the wonky level curves of all the games. The other thing that was said was Pokemon. And honestly, new dex wise, Gen 2 is probably my least favorite of the new dexes. And really, it's just kind of, even some of the Pokemon that are in there, like Slugma. I love Slugma. I think Slugma is awesome. I think Magcargo is really cool. I'm using one in Scarlet and Violet. It's the first time I got to use Magcargo, and it's super exciting, even though I've kind of taken a break from Scarlet and Violet. That playthrough, I shouldn't, because I'm going to lose the team if I do. I think it's a better team, though, than the one that I restarted. But Pokemon like that, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Houndour, I think, too, aren't even found in Johto, so they're not even options to use. So you kind of get the Kanto Dex plus a little bit, which is better than the Kanto Dex inherently, but, that's not the greatest. And not that this is its fault, but early Pokemon games, there's less moves, and the movesets aren't as good. So there's some Pokemon that get restricted even more because their movesets are just so bad. They're kind of off the table. Or do you want to work with this Pokemon for a really long time until you get a TM really late in the game that finally, it gets a move it needs? I don't really want to do that. It was probably that's probably the biggest flaw in my current X team that I'm using. I am playing through X and Y again. Is that a few Pokemon, didn't get a certain level of move as quick as you'd like. Some Pokemon get, your Flamethrower Thunderbolt early, and some get it late. And a couple of the Pokemon I'm using are getting it late, but some in like Gold and Silver, those older games, they just don't get it at all. I don't actually mind the physical special split as much. It can be issues with certain Pokemon, but it's not as big of a deal breaker as me. In the end, I put them in C because I just haven't played through them in a while. I don't know what it is that holds me back, what makes me be like, I'm not sure I want to. But I've been craving it recently, which is why I'm really excited for being able to stream. Let me check my time. Okay, I'm under 10 minutes. That makes me feel better. Ruby Sapphire. Grew up on Gen 3. These weren't my first games. Sapphire was my second game, I think, technically. Or third. No, it was third. I got Leaf Green, then I got Gold, and then I got Sapphire, I believe is what it was. So Ruby and Sapphire, I love Gen 3. This is like the biggest exception to the rule when it comes to the grinding thing. Is Gen 3 is the same problem as all these other older games, but I don't really mind it as much in Gen 3. And I think that's just because overall I like Gen 3 more, a lot more. Even though the region is interesting because it's definitely a bit more complex than Kanto and Johto, but really the only crazy thing about it, I guess you could dive, but is the volcano, and that's not a major part. But I kind of just like the region more. Sure, the water can be a little annoying. Not even much that you have to use repels and all that, but just most of the trainers are water trainers, so it's a lot of the same, fighting a lot of the same Pokemon, meaning you kind of need to use the same Pokemon for a little bit. And that's kind of not the greatest thing. I kind of wish there was a little bit more variety there, but like overall, I enjoy playing through Gen 3. I think it's a fun gen. I think the Pokedex is great. I love the Gen 3 Pokemon. One of my favorites overall. A lot of my favorite Pokemon. And it's kind of funny because, like, in a way, there's nostalgia towards Gen 3. But really, I should probably have more with Leaf Green and Gold and Silver because I got them earlier than Sapphire. But I feel a bit more of a connection to those two games. What else off the top of my head do I have to say about it? Pre-physical special split, but natures and abilities are now introduced, which is really cool. Yeah, overall, I just really enjoy playing through Gen 3. It's the one game that I really don't have a problem with the late game grind that happens. So yeah, I'm putting them in A. I loved them. I played through, Ruby's one of the few games I've played through in the last few years. played through it in about a week or something like that, or a couple weeks, and I loved it. It was fun sitting down on my Game Boy and playing through a Pokemon game. It's been a long time since I got to do that. Game Boy battery isn't the same, and I don't have many Game Boy games I can really restart currently. Emerald and Ruby are like the two main ones, and I guess I could have done Blue Rescue Team. No, Red Rescue Team, because Blue Rescue Team isn't finished. My Gold, Silver Crystal, their batteries are running dry. I got to play them on the 3DS. So, yeah, that definitely helps being able to sit down and play them on the Game Boy, but I'm putting them up there. Emerald. So Emerald has a few differences. I think it's more fun to talk about Emerald, how it's different from these two, honestly. Battle Frontier. I'm not really interested in Battle Frontier, so it doesn't move the needle at all for me. There's more double battles, which I think is really fun. I think it just adds a variety, because you can always not double battle these people for the most part, but a lot of them, you can purposely run through them or time it where you can go and do a double battle instead of a single battle, and that's pretty fun. I mean, double battles were introduced, right? But there weren't, it was usually like twins, junior and senior, the reporters. But this one, you have a lot of trainers who are just looking at each other. You have to go through them, and get a double battle. And I think that was a lot of fun, having it do that. Just more variety makes it different. Another big one is Wallace. Instead of Steven being the champion, Wallace is the champion, and Juan is the 8th gym leader. And I think Juan is a bit of a loss. If I remember correctly, it's 1, maybe 2 overlap. I think it's only 1 Pokemon overlaps between the 2 of them. Maybe 2. I think it's Whiscash or something. And maybe there's another. It might be like a Walrein or something, but I don't think Wallace has Walrein. I think Phoebe does, but not Phoebe. Glacia does, but not Wallace. So I think it's just Whiscash might overlap. But it is an extra water trainer in the region with the most water out of all of them. And on top of that, I think Wallace is a better champion. Or not, no. He's not as cool as Steven. Steven's a way cooler champion, feels more champion. Wallace is a more challenging fight, in my opinion, which I think is fun. Because water type only has 2 weaknesses, grass and electric. And I know there's technically like Tentacruel, weak to ground, you got Swampert, that helps a little bit, but it's got Toxic, which is annoying. And it also just has high special defense, and electric and grass are both specially defensive. And poison, it doesn't, it's not weak to grass. And then Milotic is the same way, just it's actually weak to grass, but the special defense is so high that it's hard to really do good damage, because the 2 things super effective are kind of partially countered by that. And if you only have one of those types, it makes it a more challenging fight. And really, Swampert's the only, I think, ground type that works quite well, because most ground types are weak to water. Swampert just is one of the few that isn't. So I don't love Juan. I kind of would rather Juan just be something entirely different, like they do in some of the newer gens when they switch the gym leaders out. But Wallace and the double battle is more than makes up for it. I'm putting Emerald slightly higher than Ruby and Sapphire. Leaf Green and Fire Red, my first game, Leaf Green. Basically, Leaf Green and Fire is really interesting, because this is the one that I'm not entirely sure how to rank. Because in one sense, I feel kind of the same way as Gold, Silver, Crystal in a way, where something has kind of prevented me from wanting to go back through them. But at the same time, I know part of that is because my Fire Red is at the end, and I need to catch some Pokemon to trade over, because there's version exclusives in the post game with some like the Johto Pokemon you get. But at the same time, I generally have been fine going through the games. I haven't had too many issues. It's not one that I kind of like stall on, really badly. I like Kanto. I don't like Kanto as much as Johto as a region. I like the Pokedex, but it's a remake of the original games. Not really its fault, but it does have a smaller Pokedex because of that, which is a little, not my favorite, but there's a good amount of Gen 1 Pokemon I haven't used that I'm, pretty fine going through and making teams. Being able to just be like, I like this Pokemon. Still got the same problems as the Gen 3 and Gen 2 games, where not all movesets are good. I think it's definitely not as bad as Gen 2. I think Gen 3 has some better Pokemon, and I think it helps with the new Pokemon that were added in. Not really having things like Voltorb, because I think Voltorb and Electrode are the ones that just have like they get no electric moves, or they get one electric move, which is like, huh? Like, it's just a head scratcher. That's one I go to. But I really feel it's tough, because there's part of me that pulls it towards Gen 2, and there's part of me that pulls it towards Gen 3. And there's also part of me that we haven't put anything in the B tier yet, but when I think about the other games that I believe are in the B tier, I'm like, is it quite there? So I feel like it's either like the really top of C or the really bottom of B. But overall, like I like Leaf Green and Fire. I don't have much complaints about them. They're fun games. I think the grinding at the end is a pain in the butt. It took me a long time. I played through Fire Red, got to the end, and then waited like a year because there was like no place to grind. And I know that was always one of my more challenging Elite Fours. That'd be a fun one when I go through to think about what Elite Fours are harder than others. It's been long enough since I played Gold and Silver or Gold that I remember I just used my starter and had no issues. But I don't think it'd be that easy if I had a real team. But both of these, Gen 3 and Gen 1, it's a bit tougher Elite Four. I think really Gary's a hard champion, or a challenging champion. My memory serves me right. I had a bit of a questionable team. Not really a questionable team. Kingler was an interesting choice. I just thought Kingler's cool. I wanted to use Kingler, but it doesn't really fit the physical special. I'm going to stick them in B. I'm going to put them in B. Diamond and Pearl, the first of the DS era. So Diamond and Pearl had some iconic things come into the games. We had the physical special split. That's really the big thing. But we also had the Battlefront came back Platinum. We had a Sinnoh Underground, which I loved. I think Sinnoh Underground is awesome. That is my favorite. One of my favorite things is just an aspect of a game. Secret bases are cool in Gen 3, but Sinnoh Underground is really cool. It's fun, the things that you can do offline, because like you could go to Entralink, and it's an awesome theme in Gen 5, but Entralink, I'm not really sure there's anything you can do in Entralink once, now that the Wi-Fi is gone. But I love the things that are exclusive that you can do single player and still have fun with. I love just going down and mining things in Gen 4. That's one of my favorite things. But Gen 4 does have two or three really big issues. Number one, Diamond and Pearl have two fire types. Chimchar, the starter, or Ponyta. And if you don't choose Chimchar, and you're like, I don't really want to use Ponyta, then you're not using a fire type, and fire is fire, so I don't really understand why that's the case. At least these older games, like, even though there's things that kind of, for my aspects, hurt my enjoyment a little bit, I can't blame Gen 1 for only having Gen 1 Pokemon in the Pokedex. It's just kind of how it is, it sucks that, that's, I guess, it sucks that it's that way from my perspective, of enjoyment, right? But like I don't blame it. I don't blame Gen 1 for having wonky mechanics. Like, there was the first one. It hampers my enjoyment. I'm not gonna ignore them. I'm not gonna plug my ears and play through Gen 1 and ignore those things or something like that, right? But I don't really see why there's only two fire types. Like, there's no excuse for that. Like, they're way past that, that there should be something like that, Certain types, I could see it. If you said there's only one or two dragon lines, okay, fine, it's dragon type. But fire, the starter type, like, that's just, I understand it. The other thing, though, is Gen 4 has a really bad level curve. That one's really rough. I had the same issue with Platinum. I knew the Elite Four is a bit tricky because I'd had issues in the Elite Four for this one in the past when I was little, at least Platinums specifically. And I'm pretty sure the Diamond Pearl are similar in this sense. I know there's a bit of differences in going through the story, but I don't think the level curve is that much different. But that is a struggle. And we'll talk about that Platinum too. But the big thing for me about these games, and this is, again, it's not their fault. It's just kind of how it is, right? They're kind of outclassed. I guess you could technically say the same thing with Gen 1 to an extent, but not even entirely, because Yellow is a very different experience to Red and Blue. And there's reason to go back and play those games if you're not me and you're nostalgic towards them, right? Same with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. They don't just outclass Leaf Green and Fire Red. There's total reason to go back and play through Leaf Green and Fire Red and play through Red, Blue, and Green, even with those games existing. The problem with Diamond and Pearl is Platinum is just better. It's an enhanced version that is just better in every way. They fixed things like the fire types. They did not fix the level curve. That one's still rough, but you have more fire type options. You have a cooler story. You have the distortion world. The graphics look nicer. I remember when I played through Pearl when I was little and went to the post-game areas, like the volcano in Platinum looks way cooler than the volcano in Diamond and Pearl. And then they got remakes with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and I know people shit on those games all the time and say like they're soulless and blah blah blah, but what they are very faithful remakes of Diamond and Pearl. And with them existing, I can either play a version of Diamond and Pearl that has a lot of quality of life mechanics. Being able to access the box at any time allows me to make bigger teams, spread out those levels. It's easier to level up at the end of the game too, and the level curve just spikes because it really spikes at the end of the game of Gen 4. You go from facing like level 20s and stuff up to like 40s and 50s are really quick for the enemies. But I could just go play them and having more quality of life enhancements. And if I just want to play Gen 4, I can go play Platinum, you know? There's no, oh, well, I'm nostalgic towards these games, so I want to go back and play them. No, I'm going to play Platinum. So if I want the quality of life, I play the newer remakes, and if I want Gen 4, I'm going to play Platinum. And that's the problem with Pearl and Diamond, which is why they're going in F. No, it's not entirely their fault. But even if it was just Platinum, and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl didn't exist, I think they still might have an argument for this. Not fully their fault, but this is the first time I think I'm not, because again, I don't know about Crystal. I think this is the first time you could say that the enhanced version really just outclasses in every way. The fire types really hurts too, because if it didn't have the fire types, then sure, maybe I'd like to play it and just see the differences between the two, but I feel like when I play through them, I'm going to have to use Chimchar, because the last one I used was Empoleon. So naturally, it makes sense for me to go Infernape. Well, I did use Infernape in Brilliant Diamond, but you know, it makes sense for me to go and play through with Infernape. And I could choose again if I want to go Empoleon or not, but like, if I want a fire type, I have to use Infernape in that game, basically, because I don't really have much interest in Bonita. So, yeah, that's my thing with Diamond and Pearls. It's not really their fault, but they're kind of just outclassed because Platinum just did way better than them. I don't really feel like I want to go play through Diamond and Pearl. I just want to play Platinum again. The only reason I have to play through Diamond and Pearl is because I don't want to restart Platinum because I'm at the end of it, you know, and I've beaten it. And I feel like I might not get through all Platinum. Like, kind of like with Gen 2 games I've said, or in general, I stall with a lot of games, but if I feel like I'm going to stall, which I have done with Gen 2, trying to play them again, you know, I don't want to get Platinum stalled, so that's why I'd play Diamond and Pearl, but really, I think I'd rather just play the newer ones with quality of life or with Platinum. So, with that, let's talk about Platinum. Platinum is a better version of Diamond and Pearl. It's got a battle frontier at the end, it's got better graphics, it's got fire types, it's got the distortion world. It's just a cooler game. It's simple as that. I don't think I need to say much more. It is just better than Diamond and Pearl. And I'm going to put it in C, which I think is controversial to a lot of people, but I've always had issues getting through Gen 4 as a whole. And that's part where the Diamond and Pearl are further down, because if I really like Gen 4, then they probably wouldn't be this far down, but I just get stuck on Gen 4. For whatever reason, Gen 4 is like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just like the perfect storm of... It's just the perfect storm that allows me to just not have as much fun with them as other games. I think there's more nostalgia for me for Gen 3 and Gen 2. Even though Platinum was what I had, like, Gen 4 was, like, elementary school for me. So, you know, we're getting to the point where it wasn't my first games, but I'm also getting older, and it's not, I'm 6 when I played this, you know, and I don't remember anything about my playthrough, right? But I think what it really is the music and the graphics is a lot of it, because I don't dislike the arrangements for the songs, but I don't like the sound of Gen 4's sound chip, or I guess they're all technically the same sound chip, but Gen 5 to me just sounds so much better than Gen 4. And I think the graphics of Gen 5, where everything's kind of moving a little bit and you have the like quasi 3D, I just think that's a lot cooler than Gen 4, where it feels just like the weird stepchild, where I'd rather go play the 2D games, or I'd rather go play Gen 5, which I think sounds better and looks better. So that, along with a kind of sharp level curve at the end, is definitely, I think, some of it. I'm not sure if that's all of it. There might be more with just the game itself. I know from playing Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I'm assuming it is, because it's so faithful, assuming that it's similar with Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, that the levels are kind of wonky. You definitely go through some errors where it feels like, wait, did the levels just drop on me? And the middle portion with the Pastoria and Veilstone, that little loop back to Installation Hearthome, like that loop is really awkward with levels. So there's something there that has just always held me back, and that's what really keeps Diamond and Pearl so low too, compared to other things, because I could still look past that, but I just don't have that much fun playing Gen 4 most of the time. And I always want to go through with an open mind and hope that changes, because everybody loves Gen 4, and I don't. And that was just Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where Heart Gold and Soul Silver are some of the craziest games to me. Because when I have a list that it's not pulled up of things I like and dislike about some of the games. And Heart Gold and Soul Silver has one of the longest lists. Because you have like the Pokeathlon, which is awesome. You have a really cool Safari Zone. The Pokemon follow you. You have the GB sounds at the end of the game, which lets you listen to the original soundtrack wherever you're at. I think they even remastered Route 47 on your way to, which was a new song in the game, on the way to the Safari Zone. And they did like an 8-bit version of that, if I'm not mistaken. And there's so many cool things they did in Heart Gold and Soul Silver that really, all these little details that really showed you how much they cared and how much went into the game. But Heart Gold and Soul Silver is everything I complained about Gen 2, or not complained, but everything that I said holds me back from enjoying Gen 2, mixed with everything that holds me back from enjoying Gen 4. So I cannot, in my right mind, put them any higher than C because of that. I love all the things they do. I think they did some really cool things, but I just cannot put them higher because I just do not enjoy really playing through Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I do not know why. I think some of it too is being a remake of Gen 2. Now it's another Pokemon game that's got basically the Kanto Dex plus. Maybe they fixed where some of the Pokemon you find them. I'm not entirely sure on that. If I can get Slugmore, Houndour, or something like that, main game. But it's still, it's Kanto plus with its Pokedex, and as someone, again, who likes using a wide variety of Pokemon, I feel like I'm kind of stuck using Kanto Pokemon a lot of the times in the end. So basically all the kind of issues or things that hold me back from enjoying some of those the other Gen 4 games and the Gen 2 games are like all into one in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. So I do love, though, that they added a lot of really cool features, that those ones I mentioned before. I think there's a couple other things too that they did, and the Pokewalker was awesome. I loved that. So there's a lot of cool things about those games. I just don't enjoy playing them as much. So Black and White 2. So I said Gen 3, I love playing that, and I love the sound and the aesthetics of Gen 5. Gen 5, I love Gen 5. I love the sound. I love the story. I think this is the best story we've had in Pokemon ever. Not anywhere close. I think the, what was I about to say? I just blanked. Shoot. What was it? Story, sound. Seasons. I love the seasons, how the seasons change depending on what month the 3DS is in. That is awesome. I love how it changes where you can go in different, portions, like Twist Mountain being snowed in. I just love Gen 5. I think if I had one complaint about Gen 5, is technically speaking, its Pokédex is small, just like Kanto's, because it's a soft reset. But I think its Pokédex is awesome. It's my favorite Pokédex by far. I love so many of the Gen 5 Pokemon that I'm never running out of things to use. If they had a Gen 1 game in the Gen 5 style, I think even then I'd have less problems playing through Gen 1. Actually, you could put most games in Gen 5 style. I'd have way less problems going through them. I just love Gen 5 aesthetically. Pokemon now at this point are starting to get better movesets. I think there might be a handful of stragglers, but generally speaking, you're not going to be like, dang, this isn't usable, kind of thing like you might have back in the day. But I just love Gen 5. I think the biggest thing with that, and maybe Audino, you still need, if you feel under-leveled, it's easier to grind with Audino, but you still have a bit of a rough level curve if you don't use Audino. But it's there, and for me, it's fine. But I still have to grind, or I feel like I have to grind most of the time to get a little bit of levels. Nothing crazy, but especially with Guess's Hydreigon, that thing has such crazy coverage. I think it's in the original ones, is that it's where it's really bad. I think it's a bit easier in Black 2 and White 2. But yeah, he's got a tough team. Going through N and then him, I know you get healed and stuff, but like they have hard teams, so I don't want to go in under leveled for those. This might be, I think the Elite Four isn't as tough, but this is maybe the toughest champion fights for me, at least in the originals. So yeah, I just love everything about the games. The issues that are problematic are healed by Audino, healed by me liking the Pokédex a lot. So I never feel like I'm running out of things, or I can't find 6 Pokemon I'm in the mood to use. That can be an issue sometimes. And I've played them probably more than any other Pokemon game, because I like to play Black and White and then Black and White 2, and then I get to Black and White 2, and because I played back-to-back Gen 5, I'm like, I'm not sure I feel about this. I figure streaming will also help me get through it, more so than I just play them by myself. When we get to this point, or really Gen 3 is going to be the first one, because Ruby, Sapphire, Leaf Green, and Fire Red, Emerald, all be kind of similar in a way. But Black 2, White 2, I've played through Black and White more, as I said. But I think Black and 2 and White 2 might just be better, because now they add Pokemon to the Pokédex. I think it's 300 is what's in the game, and I think 300 is the baseline for every Pokemon game afterwards. I think it's really 400. Sun and Moon have 300 as well, the base ones. I think Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon went up to 400. But yeah, all the non-remakes after this basically have 400 Pokemon, except for Sun and Moon. So they even went, like, 300 is, I think, more than previous games, but they even went up another step, you know, for all but Sun and Moon, which is still 300, more than enough Pokemon. That's a lot of Pokemon, good choices. Like I said, that's what I like playing through. I like using new Pokemon. The one thing that I think holds me back with these two games is, yeah, I like to play them back to back, and when I'm just playing, I usually end up, that's when I start stalling through games, because I'm just like, you know what, I love Gen 5, difficult to play back-to-back Gen 5 like that. I typically don't play generations back-to-back, you know, I don't go, well, X and Y or is remix, but I typically wouldn't go, let me play Sun or Moon and then play Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon directly after that, you know. And then Route 10, you can't access Route 10, and I think Route 10 has awesome music. It's maybe my favorite song in the entirety of Pokemon, mainline Pokemon games. Mystery Dungeon's got great songs. So, yeah, those are the big things, but they added new areas. Oh, you know what? Okay, minor complaints with some of these games real quick to go through. Diamond Pearl Platinum, cool post game. Johto games, amazing post game, being able to do all of Kanto. Leaf Green Fire out of the Sevi Islands, it's really cool. If you're not a Battle Frontier player like me, there's like nothing in Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald. There's a little bit in Emerald with like Pokemon you catch, but there's like nothing in Ruby and Sapphire. Black and White do have some new areas to explore, but I never found their post games as engaging outside of going to those post game areas. But I like how they re-go around Unova from Black 2 and White 2. You go to a new area and then you go straight to Castelia, and that entire beginning section from the forest backwards, you know, towards the original hometown, all post game. You don't go to Iciris. Twin Mountain has got like a cave-in or something, so you go across the map and then you play what was the post game areas, and that's really cool too. Overall, yeah, I think Black 2 and White 2 are awesome. Great games. Definitely aesthetics help these two. The Gen 5 games for me. I think that really puts them over the top. I just love how they sound, how they play. And I love the Pokemon. Those are probably the biggest things for me in Pokemon games. X and Y. X and Y, also I love how they sound, and I love all the Pokemon they have. They've got a big dex, and that's always fun. It gives me a lot of options and things to choose from. A lot of nostalgia for Gen 6, because that is when YouTube was becoming a thing. So, everybody in the Beyblade community, we all played X and Y. We battled each other. Forever the Hobbit did a boatload of free-for-alls with people. I was in one of them. Iconic Dooster 97 moment when he is offended that they go after his Venusaur and he disconnects so he doesn't lose. I gotta find that. That was so funny. What? Who disconnected? My Venusaur didn't have to die like that. Dooster! You douchebag! Iconic Pokemon video. But I was playing through X and Y recently. Or playing through X and Y recently. I'm playing through X and Y now. I'm in the Elite Four. Okay, retroactively going back to talk about games 2, things I didn't remember. I think Leaf Green and Fire Red, you just need strength and Victory Road to do the boulders for the puzzle. I don't know what it's like in Johto's. Sapphires, you need Dive to get to the Team Aqua and Magma, which is obnoxious because ditching a party member. Then for Victory Road, I think you need Waterfall, Surf, and you could double that up on your Water type, but you also I think need Strength and Rock Smash both too. So you really need something with HMs, and that's obnoxious. That's real annoying. I think Black and White 2 are fine, and Black and White are fine. I don't think there's issues. Maybe you need Waterfall or Surf. It is a little bit easier with Waterfall and Surf because they're strong moves. Strength is a bit tougher because it's a good move, but it's a normal type move, and you might not have a normal type. And if you don't have a normal type, that you probably don't want Strength. You probably don't have coverage because Strength isn't super effective against anything. X and Y have a lot of HM usage, and that means either going back and forth and putting something away, or having to ditch a party member for a little bit, and that's kind of annoying. Otherwise, I think I was using the berry system the first time, and I think the berry system is really cool. I like the Battle Chateau. I love the styles. Being able to do all the outfit stuff. I enjoyed going through and doing the post-game store, along with trying to upgrade my style in Lumio City so I could afford. They would let me in to the high-end luxury boutique, and I can access all the stylish outfits, because those are easily the best outfits in the game, or what's in there. So that was always fun. I remember leveling up Pokemon. Only a handful of games I really leveled up post-game without cheating. I did that for Diamond and Pearl because I had Battle Revolution and I want things that were level 50, to use. But I leveled up a lot in Leaf Green and Fire Red, and I've leveled up a lot of stuff post-game in X and Y over the years from that. just going to the battle chateau or going and doing the not the sushi place, but the one of the battle places. It's like, I think it's the triple battle place. No, it's double battles. Triple rotations, the level 2 one, and double battles. No, that's wrong, because it's just double battle. I don't remember which one it is, actually. The highest end one. I forget if it's triple rotation, regular, or if they have options for it. They might just have options. You can do whichever. I feel like I specifically remember double battles or triple battles, though. So maybe it's triple, because I did do double battles for the middle one. Anyway, I really enjoy X and Y. I think they sound great. They definitely, I guess, look-wise, Sun and Moon are better looking games. And then the new, the 3D ones, at least Sword and Shield. We'll get to the ones after that, but I still think they look fine. I don't have a problem with the art style being more chibi. I think the region is awesome. This might be my favorite region, along with Unova. It's not, it's memorable, but it's not an island like Hoenn and Alola are, and it's not such an old gen like Gen 1 and like Kanto and Johto, where they're fairly simple, But yeah, I love X and Y. I'm putting X and Y on the top with Black and White. I really have enjoyed playing them, and when I play through them, I just, when you play through a game, you just get that joy, And I get that joy with X and Y. Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. These are really interesting games. So there's a few that I think I marked on the list as interesting. They were Scarlet Violet, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, and then I forget what the other ones were because it's been 2 weeks. But these are some of the more interesting ones I think to talk about for me, because they're remakes of some of my favorite games in the style of some of my other favorite games. They've got all the quality of life enhancements that X and Y have, and they have a lot of cool features, like doing Ultra Sun, Ultra Mega, like the wormholes and stuff, but you had these kind of portals that you could go fight legendaries, and you could fly on Mega Latios and Latios, and that was really cool. I don't remember particularly loving the story of Zinnia, but I enjoyed that there was a post-game thing to do. I think that was fun. I think that's where you got one Rayquaza, if I'm not mistaken, is during that. So that's pretty cool. The music remastered and fully orchestrated. That's X and Y is the first orchestrated soundtracks. Sound amazing. But I just don't think I like them as much as Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, which is funny because one of the biggest holdbacks for me, right, is always leveling up Pokemon. But I think because Ruby and Sapphire, there's enough nostalgia there that, like I said, unlike other older games, I don't have as much of a problem with that at the end of the game. I'm fine doing it more so than others, even though it can be a little bit tedious. But because of that, I end up enjoying those games more than the other ones, because that isn't as much of a thing that holds them back. And that's not an issue at all in these games. It's just there's something about them that still is. They're really good. They're really, really good. They're easily B tier. Without a doubt, these are B tier games. High B tier, probably the top. They are the top of B tier, probably. They're really good. I don't have an issue with them. It's just I kind of like just original Gen 3 a little bit more. Kind of like Gold, Silver, Crystal, where Heart Gold and Soul Silver have all the things that I don't like as much with Gen 4, mixed in with them. And yeah, I just don't like the music in those games. I really think the originals are better, or music-wise. And that definitely, that aesthetic, I think really helps Gen 2. I think it's kind of in a way the same thing here. I don't mind how X and Y look. I don't think they look bad. There's something to be said about going through and playing Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. So I'm putting Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. Oh, I also don't like Mauville. Is that a hot take? I don't like Mauville that much because that was my favorite place to go and grind, because there is a big string of trainers between Verdanturf and the coast, and you can go back and forth on basically a line, waiting for people to want to battle you. Well, I learned that the system, you kind of need to go to other areas, but it still is a good place to go back and forth. And I generally have been able to get battles pretty easily going back and forth, just walking that area. And then now you have to go through 4 doors, because you have to go into Mauville, into the covered place, then out of the covered place to the center where the Pokemon Center is, then back out to the covered place, and then back, and it's 4 doors and loading. So that I don't like that as much, but that's a really minor pet peeve. Besides that, good games. Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I'm gonna be honest, I've played through both of them. I don't remember what the differences are that heavily. I know you have the Ultra Recon Squad, but I just don't remember how they affect the game that much. I do know you have the Ultra Wormholes in the post game of Ultra Moon and Ultra Sun, which is really cool. And I remember I got a shiny Omega randomly from one of those. That was really neat. I really enjoy playing through them, both of them. I don't like the region as much as some of the other ones. It's a little bit too tropical. I do respect that they put in like a little deserty area, even though I feel like I remember it being not really relevant at all going into it, but it's there. And I like the Mount Lanakila as well. It's a great song. I do think this is the first Pokemon games where the soundtracks get a little bit less memorable for new Pokemon games. Remakes, obviously, it's different because they're remasters of old songs that were very iconic and memorable. I think this is the first one where the only ones that come to mind are Hyrule City in the very beginning of the game, because I've probably played through that the most. Every time I've kind of felt like playing through Sun and Moon, and then decided, nah, I'm not quite into it. I hear that song, so it's always there. And I like the last island, like the Vast Pony Canyon or something like that, I think is the name. That area's got a cool theme. Pretty memorable. I think Mount Lanakila's got a memorable theme. But overall, like, I like these games more than Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. I think they're tier A. I don't have much to say. Like, I some of the soft factors I don't like as much. I think the music is a bit weaker. I do think it looks better. So some of those factors, but there's other ways that I like the games more too. I think the Z moves sucked. Mega Evolutions are awesome. I think the Z moves sucked, but it doesn't really change my gameplay that much. I just kind of don't use them. If I really need to, I can use them. If I think I need that extra oomph somewhere. It's had some of my historically worst teams I've ever made. That's not really on purpose. Well, no. One of them was not on purpose. It was just me playing through the games the first time I tried to use all new Pokemon. The other one was Wonder Trade Pokemon, and I got a bunch of cool Pokemon. It's just they weren't very good Pokemon. And then the third one, I built a team. No, I didn't build a team. I was playing through my original copy, and I just decided I'm going to get Pokemon as I go, and I ended up with a team that had no water, no ground, no fairy, or ice coverage. So my only way to hit Dragon super effectively was with a Noivern, and I had no water, ground, or ice or fairy, and that was miserable. I didn't really dislike any of the Pokemon on the team. I remember it fondly because of this, having all of those problems, but it always go down in infamy, that team. But overall, I generally enjoy playing through Sun and Moon. Then you had the Totem Pokemon. I don't like Totem Pokemon as much as Gym Leaders. I don't like having just the one really strong boss Pokemon. I'd rather have like the team where not one of them is so overpowered. But yeah, I generally like Sun and Moon. I think they're really good. I think one of my favorite things in the originals is that the champion is Kukui. He made the Elite Four and he was the champion, and I thought that was so cool. Best professor, by the way. I think the story was also nice. This was the first comedic team, but you obviously had more with the Aether Foundation and all that. So they're kind of almost a ploy in a way, Team Skull. But yeah, and Team Skull is funnier than other people like Team Yell. So Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, I have not played them fully, but they're Kanto games that sound very, very pretty with their soundtracks. You catch Pokemon like you do in Pokemon Go, but other than that, battling is generally the same for like trainers and stuff. I think part of this is just not cared to go back to Kanto, and that's probably why I haven't played through it as much. Pikachu is the only game that I don't actually own from the main series outside of, I guess, Yellow. I've got physical copies of all after Gen 1, except for Pikachu, and then digitally included, I don't have Yellow because I just didn't care to get that. And I still don't exactly regret it. I mean, I guess I probably should have when I go back and think on it, but I'm not fretting over it, I'm putting them in D because I haven't played through them fully, and if I haven't played through them fully, it's not that I can't judge them, it's just more of, well, I at least played through even games I have problems with, I at least have played through them fully, right? Actually, technically speaking, I don't think I went through Heart Gold and Soul Silver fully. I had Soul Silver and I lost it at some point. I forget how far I got into it. So there's a chance I can actually beat that one fully. But I've sat with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and they haven't, moved anywhere. I haven't gotten any further, so. Also, I think really I probably should swap Ultras ahead. I think they're a bit better. And I think technically I should swap Black and White 2 ahead. There you go. I'm going to leave Gen... Oh, no, I'm going to put Platinum at the top of this one. Sword and Shield. So Sword and Shield are also kind of interesting to me because when I was thinking back through them, I think they look really pretty, except for when you're speeding on your bike and sometimes the Pokemon outside of the grass just kind of spawn in quickly in the wild area. I generally don't have a problem with. I think the wild area was really cool. I'm glad it's not the entire game, but I thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed my post game. I bred Pokemon for the first time. I had my thing where I would use Gmax Meowth to get money, feed vitamins to the Pokemon I bred, and then level those Pokemon up by fighting the tough Pokemon in the wild area with one of the Pokemon I already had, and then rinse and repeat. So every time I breed more Pokemon and level them up, I've got more Pokemon that can go into the tournament, more Pokemon that I can level up with. You can access your box anywhere, so I could just click one, switch it out, because, you know, oh, I'm facing Bouffalant, let me grab a fighting type. Up, let me, who am I facing now? I'm facing Octolocto. Grapploct, right? That's his name. I watched a lot of Wolfie back in the beginning of that in VGC, so I just know Octolocto. And now let me grab a Psychic or a Flying or a Fairy, you know, whoever's lowest or whoever I'm in the mood for. And I really enjoyed that, but when I have not played through those games again, like in full. It's just my one that's in the post game that I finished, and I put a lot of time into it, and I really like it, but I haven't, when it comes to playing through the games, I just have not really had much motivation to go through Sword and Shield, and I don't really know why, because when I think about it, I don't remember what problems I had. I thought the story was a little weak, but there's multiple Pokemon games where the story's a little weak. I think X and Y story's a little weak on the, like, comparatively speaking, because they're kind of like selfish Team Galactic. Like, at least Team Galactic, like, Cyrus was going to literally destroy the world. I'm not even sure Team Galactic really knew that, you know, like Cyrus did. X and Y are just like, you have to pay $5 million and we'll save your life. Or not really, you know, they're like, we're going to destroy the world, but everybody but us. And it's like, what? And, well, I guess it's technically Lysander because it's French, right? Even though the RE, I always read it as Andre. Lysander was just kind of lame because, or not lame, he was so obvious, you know. And I think Sword and Shield has this with Rose, where Rose is like blatantly the villain even before he's doing anything evil. And I don't think Rose is like crazy evil exactly. Even Lysander kind of just went down a wrong path. But I think, I don't think Rose is the most evil as of all other, like, comparatively to some of the other villains. But I think that was obvious, you know. Like, yeah, it's clear that these guys are the villain. Like, this guy's the villain here. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something that's preventing me from going back playing through them. These are also the first game with DLC, and I'm not a big fan of DLC. That's one of two reasons I'm not getting Z on launch. It's very easy for me to say I'm doing it just because it's DLC and launch a DLC, but I'd rather just not, I can also just not pay for the DLC, right? When that comes out. But the other thing is it's an ARPG, and I don't like ARPGs. So Sword and Shield, I thought the DLC was fun. Don't get me wrong. I'd rather have it be in the main story, but I'll give them credit. I think the DLC for these games in Scarlet and Violet is probably more content that's what's in the average post game that's not Gen 2. So, you know, it's kind of give and take, right? It's definitely paying more money. It definitely was not anything finished when the game came out. I guess you could also say just hold the game off another year, but we could have a whole conversation about money making and all that and trying to rush games out. In the end, I'd rather not have DLC, but the DLC was fun, and it definitely amplified my playing time of those games, and I played a lot more and put a lot more into Sword and Shield because I could go and use the DLC areas for grinding and all that. But the biggest thing is I haven't gone back and played through them again, so they have to go into the D tier. There's something missing there, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's, like I said with Heart Gold and Soul Silver, even though I do not really enjoy playing through them, there's so many details that you can really see they cared. I'm not sure that's the case with Sword and Shield, and I think a lot of people would argue that some of these newer games just don't have quite as much soul behind them in some ways. These games look pretty, though, and I think they're a good first games on the Switch. I can't put my finger on it, which is why I say I think they might just have a little less soul. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl definitely have less soul. They were pawned off to another side, company to be made. They are very faithful remix of Diamond and Pearl. The problem is Diamond and Pearl are very flawed, and they're just not as fun as Platinum. These games do fix the fire type thing, and they have a lot of quality of life adjustments. I really enjoy being able to have a big team, and so Sword and Shield have this too. You can access your box anywhere, and that made it great for post-game grinding. The one Shield playthrough I did do, I tried to use a bigger team, and I was getting way under leveled really quickly, so I don't think they have as much of a level curve problem as some of the other games do. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, being very faithful remakes, have a awful level curve, just like Diamond and Pearl do. I'm gonna switch these because you say Diamond and Pearl, or do you say Pearl, Diamond, Platinum? I say Diamond, Pearl, Platinum. I think DPP, right? Diamond, Pearl, Platinum. So BDSP, all right? Pearl, Diamond. That I think enhanced a lot of fun for me because they would use a big variety of Pokemon. Is the Sinnoh Dex big enough for me to consistently do that and use new Pokemon? Probably not, but I also use Pokemon like Pachirisu, which I think, honestly, with the newer games, it's easier to use Pokemon like that might not have the highest base stats and have them still really shine. Where whenever I've tried to use like Raticate in Leaf Green and Fire Red, or Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where I've got a shiny currently in my Soul Silver, I feel like they really fall behind. Don't have that issue nowadays with newer games, which is fun. There's a lot of things I like, with the quality of life adjustments, just some of the newer things that are in newer Pokemon games, newer items that, well, I'm not sure how many of these items are in the main game. Like, I don't know if you get a Violite offhand or not. Maybe you do, I forget. In the end, I think they're better than Diamond and Pearl. I don't think they have quite as much stuff as Platinum. I might find them a little bit more fun because, like I said, I kind of like some of the quality of life stuff that's added. But I'm still going to stick them here, and I'll put them behind Sword and Shield. I'm not about to sit here and put them higher than Platinum. Even if I've got problems with Gen 4 and don't really enjoy it the most, I think there's still almost that heart factor that I think is just a little bit more there in the older games. And I said you'll see the difference between C and D. They're all Pokemon games that there's something about them that I haven't really gone back through, And I split them by older game and newer game. I put the newer ones a little bit lower than the older ones. Even if there's an argument that I had more fun in my first playthrough of Sword or Brilliant Diamond than I have in any Gen 4 game recently. Legends Arceus. First fully open world of the Pokemon games. It's in segmented areas. It's not one giant map, but I think what really hurts this one is it technically is a mainline game. It's not a remake. It's, I guess, the one exception. I don't think it has 300 Pokemon. Maybe it does. Because I forget how many discs it now has. Maybe it does get to 300, but it feels small to me. I wish it was a bigger roster of Pokemon. I hope ZA is like that. I hope ZA at least hits 400. I have not actually checked the Pokedex. But if X and Y hit 400, I feel like they should, even if it's just Lumio City. Legends Arceus, all the Gen 4 Pokemon. I think it's mostly everything you find in the original ones, plus a few extras like Paris is in there. I think it's a fun game overall. I love what they did with it. I think the biggest problems are it's really ugly. Well, no, I think its style is really cool, but I think it needed more time. It isn't the most attractive. Like it does not look as good as Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, which is, I know they're not Game Freak, but Nintendo, franchises that are 3D. They don't look as good as those or Mario or something like that. Frankly, I don't know what, there's no excuse for that really. If you want to say, oh, they're, rushing out games quicker. I mean, whatever engine you use, I know there's different engines, right? And there's almost a subset, right? Because you have the Unreal Engine, and there's other ones, right? That are used for, modeling and stuff. But I know each company uses those as a base, but tinkers, things about them, right? Like Fire Emblem Three Houses looks nothing like Engage or the new Fire Emblem game. I forget the name of it. Shoot. And I'm really excited for it too, but I haven't looked at the title in ages. it's like the trailer and stuff. There's a big difference in how those look, right? When you have a game that looks as good as Zelda or like the 3D Mario games, but Zelda especially because it's one big world, there's no excuse for Pokemon to have a world that just looks way uglier. I think the style of it was cool, but it still is behind graphically. That does not always give me problems. I'm not gonna sit here and put a game lower because its graphics are terrible, but there's no excuse for it. You need to hit a certain baseline, and those didn't do that. Sword and Shield hit the baseline. They look good. I have zero problems with how they look. Arceus does not look as good as Sword and Shield. The character designs are cool and the facial expressions and all that, but again, these just don't look up to par. You need to hit the mark. You need to hit a base at a certain level, and they did not hit the level. The other thing is, I know you can probably just run around on Weirdeer or something, or what other fast Pokemon there is, but I typically, when I play through the games, I take my time going through the areas. I sneak around. I guess I could battle some of those Pokemon, but when it's a game like this where you sneak up behind and get the jump, that means still you either go charge head on and don't get the sneak attack, or you have to slow yourself down to get the sneak attack, and I think that ends up making things play a little bit slowly sometimes for me, and I kind of get... There's a point I'm kind of like, ugh, I kind of want to be a bit faster. But I think if you just start running around, you kind of aren't taking in the world, and I don't like playing open world games like that. I like being able to go around on foot. Zelda, I barely use horses. I'm still putting these up in the B tier. I think it's a really fun game. And then Scarlet and Violet, which are also very fascinating games, because Scarlet and Violet, when they came out, I thought were some of the most fun Pokemon games I've ever played. And they're also easily the most flawed games I've ever played. They take how a game looks and performs, like needing to hit that baseline, and they take it to a whole new level. Like, they fell flat on their face. The game does not play on the Switch 1. Like, plays awful on the Switch 1. I'm glad that update deserved to be free for the Switch 2. It plays horrifically on the Switch 1. It looks ugly. The style and everything, I think characters and all that, uglier. I think except for the Area Zero places, I think it's it has not memorable music, nor does Gen 8, by the way. I know I mentioned that with Gen 7, they don't do that. There's no exception there. Gen 8 is the same way. It doesn't, nothing's memorable. Nothing in this is memorable except for the gym theme was kind of memorable. But in this one, yeah, the songs, the cities look weird. They're just like, they feel out of place, because it feels like it feels like in Minecraft, if you just built a house and you built a wall around your house, where you just come into this natural area and then, oh, that's your house, It doesn't mesh with the environment at all. But they have maybe my favorite or second favorite behind Gen 5 new Pokedex. I think the new Pokemon they added are awesome. Most of them are really cool. Most of them I want to use. It's driven me to go back and play through the games multiple times. As I've played through the games, I've cooled down a little bit. I don't think they're as fun. There's a point where I almost put them with the top tier just on a pure fun factor, even with their problems. Now playing on the Switch 2, a system that can actually handle them, they don't have those issues, but they're still ugly. It doesn't scale like your levels. You kind of still have to go through in order to do things, which is kind of lame. I think everything should scale with you. I do think it was a pretty unique area. I would have loved if there was like a volcano or something. It'd be kind of neat. But I like the different areas in the game. I thought the DLC was really fun. Again, I'd rather not have it, but you know what? I wish what they do is they put it like 2 years after the fact. I would rather have it 2 years after the fact to try to give some life into the game, and then wait another 2 years before a new game came out or a new generation, That's how I wish it was. Hopefully, maybe with the new whatever Gen 10 is. I do not keep up with rumors and leaks, so don't tell me anything about that, please. But hopefully they have graphically have like a good something to work off of, like Fire Emblem Engage, or the new one. That looks nice, and they can use, even if they change how the region is and change things, change textures, they can use that to have a good looking Pokemon game for the next however, long time. Because really, like, I'll still play a game if it doesn't look there, but it still needs to graphically be there. And let's be honest, it can't have a ton of problems, but if you had a Pokemon game that looked just stunning, fixed up, I think the open world was fun too. But you fix up some of these things and make it look stunning, it could easily go to the top. I will say, I think ZA looks better from what I've seen. I've stayed away from it because I don't have it yet. But I'm not a big ARPG fan. I appreciate them going out of the box, and maybe my opinion will change when I play those games, but I do not want them to go towards full ARPG. If they went full ARPG, I would drop Pokemon. Straight up. I like turn-based. That's what I have fun with. Anyway. Whoa, you moved. I'm going to put these still in B tier, but I'm going to put them at the top of B tier, which, sorry, Oris, and people who like Oris. I still think these games are really fun despite how flawed they are. And in the end, this is a list of how much fun how much I enjoy the games, not objective. Objectively, these are the worst Pokemon games because of their flaws, probably. There's like no excuses for any of those things, but on a fun factor, they're much higher. So, this is my list. If I liked Diamond and Pearl more, they probably would just move up to D tier, because they're definitely a tier below Platinum. I'll tell you guys that. If I enjoyed Gen 4 more, they'd probably be just up 1 tier, and this would be a 5 tier list. Anyway, those are my opinions. Put what you think down below, and when I start streaming, go through them, and I finish. I know those are big ambitions, and I've never been able to do that when it comes to streaming or playing through games on my channel. I've never come through, but I'm going to assume that I will come through. and continue all the way. And when we get through all of them, we will come back and revisit this list and see what I think. Because maybe I enjoy Gen 2 and Gen 4, and that makes some of those games in like the B tier more vulnerable. You know, maybe the things that I enjoy about Scarlet and Violet don't save it, you know, like they do right now. Because in the end, despite how flawed they are, the Pokemon are fun. I love using all the Pokemon. They've got great Pokedexes, and that matters a lot for me. And even though they're ugly, I don't know, I still generally enjoy playing them. But I think that's probably what's starting to come back down to earth to me with the games is they're ugly, so there's only so much with a bad soundtrack too, or not as memorable soundtrack. There's only so much you could do to get carried by the Pokedex. And it's starting to come down to earth. I could see them falling even further, but I do still really enjoy them. I played through them about as much as any other Pokemon games. I played them really quickly in succession when I got them. So still really fun. That's why they're higher. But yeah, this is my list. Tell me what you guys think, what you agree and disagree with. I like hearing other people's perspectives. I think that's fun. So I definitely would be interested to hear Gen 2 and Gen 4 perspectives on why people enjoy those games more than I do. And hopefully I can go through and enjoy them more than I have previously, because that's the goal. I think that'd be really fun. So update in a little bit when it comes to doing streaming. That'll be probably like a week or something as I get closer to the 7th. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.